The Abandoned One. The battlefield was silent. The ground was covered in the ruins of a once great alien city, now reduced to ash and rubble. Smoke rose into the sky, mixing with the cold wind that howled through the broken structures. The war had ended, but for one small survivor, the nightmare was far from over. She was a child, no more than 6 or 7 years old in human years. Her skin was a deep shade of blue, her large silver eyes filled with fear and confusion. Her tiny hands clutched a torn piece of cloth, perhaps a reminder of the family she had lost. She had not eaten in days, her small body weak, her legs shaking with every step. But she kept moving, searching for someone, anyone, who would help her. But no one came. The Galactic Council had declared her people extinct. They had decided that no survivors would be taken in, no aid would be sent. The war had been brutal, but politics was even crueler. The child, like the rest of her kind, had been abandoned. She had seen the ships leave. Large, powerful vessels belonging to different alien species had come to loot the battlefield, taking whatever technology or resources remained. None had spared even a glance at the small figure hiding in the wreckage. They had ignored her cries, pretending she did not exist. She had tried to approach a group of tall, armored aliens, the Vrakans, thinking that maybe they would help. But the leader had only sneered at her. "Leave it," he had said in a cold voice. "It is already dead." She had not understood their words, but she had understood their meaning. Alone and afraid, she had curled up inside the remains of a destroyed building, hugging her knees to her chest. Her stomach ached with hunger, but there was nothing left to eat. The sound of distant thunder rumbled in the sky, and the temperature began to drop. She shivered. Would she die here? Would she ever see kindness again? Her silver eyes turned upward, staring at the sky through a hole in the building's ceiling. The stars twinkled like tiny fireflies, cold and distant. She did not know that far above her, something was watching. A single spacecraft, hidden among the stars, had detected something unusual, a weak life signal in the ruins below. The crew of that ship was human, and unlike the rest of the galaxy, they did not ignore cries for help. The small alien child curled up inside the ruins, her tiny body trembling. The cold winds of the night howled through the destroyed city, and the ground beneath her felt lifeless. She was too weak to move, too tired to even cry. Above her, hidden among the stars, a ship drifted silently. It was a human vessel, a scouting ship named Dawnfire. Its crew had been sent to monitor the aftermath of the recent war, scanning for any valuable intelligence. Inside the ship, Lieutenant Adrian Carter leaned over the control panel, frowning at the data on his screen. The scanners had picked up something unusual, an active life signal deep within the ruins. "Are you sure it's not just an error?" asked Commander Elisa Grant, standing beside him. "Negative," Carter replied. "It's weak, but it's there, and it's alone." The bridge crew exchanged glances. They all knew what that meant. No one was supposed to be alive down there. The Galactic Council had declared this planet a wasteland. Any survivors had been abandoned to die. Commander Grant exhaled sharply, rubbing her temple. "Damn politicians. They wipe out entire civilizations, and then pretend they don't exist." Carter turned to her. "Commander, if that's a child down there, we can't just leave them." The room fell silent. The crew knew the risks. The Galactic Council had strict laws against interfering with war zones. If they got caught taking in an abandoned alien, they could be accused of violating intergalactic laws. But they were humans, and humans never abandoned the helpless. Grant sighed. "Prep the landing team. We do this fast and quiet. If it's a survivor, we take them in. No questions asked." The Dawnfire's engines hummed softly as it descended toward the ruined city. The ship was designed for stealth, its dark hull blending into the night sky. It touched down on the cracked ground with barely a sound. Two figures stepped out, a tall man in a dark uniform and a woman with short blonde hair, both armed but not hostile. Lieutenant Carter and medic Sarah Evans moved carefully through the ruins, their visors scanning for movement. Sarah spotted a small form huddled in the shadows of a broken building. "There," she whispered. Carter approached slowly, lowering his weapon. "Hey," he called out softly. "We're here to help." The child flinched at the sound, her large silver eyes widening in fear. She had seen so many aliens before, none had stopped to help. Why would these be any different? Sarah crouched down, removing her helmet to reveal her face. She smiled gently. "It's okay, little one. You're safe now." The child did not understand the words, but she understood the tone. It was warm, kind. She blinked up at them, her small fingers gripping the torn cloth she had carried since the attack. She did not move. Carter reached into his pack and pulled out a small ration bar. He carefully placed it on the ground near her, then stepped back. The girl hesitated, then reached out with shaking hands and grabbed it. She sniffed it cautiously before taking a small bite. Sarah's heart ached as she saw the way the child devoured the food. She had been starving for days. "She's terrified," Sarah murmured, "and freezing." Carter pulled off his jacket and carefully draped it over the child's tiny shoulders. "We can't leave her here." Sarah nodded. "No, we can't." Carter tapped his comms. "Commander, we have a survivor. She's just a kid." There was a brief silence. Then Grant's voice came through. "Understood. Bring her aboard." The child did not resist when Carter gently lifted her into his arms. She was too weak, too exhausted. But as she felt the warmth of his coat, the steady heartbeat of the human carrying her, a tiny spark of something flickered inside her chest. Hope. For the first time since the war began, she was not alone. She did not know it yet, but the decision these humans had made tonight would change the course of galactic history forever. The inside of the Dawnfire was warm, a stark contrast to the cold ruins where the child had been left to die. Soft lights lined the walls, and the hum of the ship's systems filled the air with a gentle vibration. Lieutenant Carter carried the small alien girl through the narrow corridors, his arms steady but careful. The child clung to his jacket, her body tense. She did not know where she was being taken. She had seen too many horrors, lost too much to trust easily. Sarah Evans, the ship's medic, walked beside them, observing the child with quiet concern. The girl was severely underweight, her small frame too fragile. Her silver eyes darted around, scanning every movement, every sound, as if expecting danger to come at any moment. The door to the med bay slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, a medical scanner hummed as it booted up. Sarah gestured toward the cushioned examination table. "Let's get her checked," she said softly. Carter carefully set the child down. The girl tensed, her fingers gripping the edges of his jacket as if letting go would mean losing everything. Sarah knelt beside her, holding up a small scanning device. "It's okay," she said, keeping her voice soothing. "I just want to make sure you're not hurt." The girl flinched when the scanner beeped, but she did not move away. Carter gave her a reassuring nod. "It's all right, kid. You're safe here." The child did not understand the words, but she stared at his face for a long moment, as if trying to read his intentions. Slowly, she loosened her grip on his jacket. Sarah ran the scanner over her frail body, frowning at the results. Malnourished, dehydrated, signs of prolonged stress, but no major injuries. The child had survived, but barely. Sarah sighed. She's been through hell. Carter sat down on the floor beside the table, his expression unreadable. "Who does this?" he muttered. "Who abandons a kid like this?" "The same ones who burned her planet," Sarah said bitterly. "The Galactic Council. They had deemed this world unrecoverable after the war. They had ordered a full evacuation, except not everyone had been taken. Some had been left behind. And this child, too young to even understand why, had been one of them." Sarah stood and grabbed a small water container. She took a sip to show the girl, then offered it to her. The child hesitated, looking at the bottle with suspicion. "It's just water," Sarah said gently. Slowly, the girl reached out and took it. She sniffed it first, as if expecting poison, then took a small sip. The moment the water touched her lips, she drank eagerly, finishing half of it in seconds. Carter let out a slow breath. "She's a fighter." Sarah nodded. "Yeah, but even fighters need help sometimes." The child blinked at them, confusion flickering in her silver eyes. These humans, why were they being kind to her? She did not know their language, did not know their customs, but she understood something else. For the first time in a long time, someone had cared enough to stop, to help. For the first time, she wasn't alone. Commander Grant stood in the bridge, arms crossed, watching the security feed. She had seen many things in her career. Battles, destruction, the worst of what the galaxy had to offer. But as she watched Carter and Sarah trying to comfort the fragile child, she felt something stir in her chest. She tapped her comm. "Lieutenant." Carter's voice came through a second later. "Yes, Commander." "We've got a problem," Grant said. "A patrol ship just entered the system. Council affiliated." Carter stiffened. "You think they're looking for survivors? Or making sure there are none?" Silence. Then Carter's voice, steady but firm. "They're not getting this kid." Grant smirked. "Dan right, they're not." She turned toward the crew. "Prep the ship. If they scan us, we need to make sure they don't find her." Because the moment the Galactic Council found out a human ship had rescued an abandoned alien child, it would mean war. Alarms hummed quietly through the Dawnfire's bridge as the crew worked quickly. The Council patrol ship had not hailed them yet, but it was close, too close. If they detected the child on board, things would escalate fast. Commander Grant stood at the center of the bridge, her hands resting on the console. She watched the radar screen, tracking the enemy ship as it moved through the ruins of the dead planet. "They're scanning," Lieutenant Hale muttered from the sensor station. "Not locking onto us yet, but they're sweeping the area." Grant frowned. "Cloak the med bay," she ordered. Hale's fingers flew across the controls. The ship's internal energy shields redirected, creating a distortion field around the med bay. If the Council ship scanned them now, it would look like an empty section of the ship. "We don't have long." Carter's voice came through the comm. "The kid's safe, but if they board us, there's no way to hide her." Grant tapped her earpiece. "Let's make sure that doesn't happen." The patrol ship was an older model, a Council Enforcer-class cruiser, designed for intimidation, not war. It had decent firepower but lacked speed. If it came down to a chase, the Dawnfire could outrun it. But if the Council ship called for backup, things would get complicated. Hale's console beeped. "They're hailing us." Grant straightened. "Put them through." A voice crackled over the speakers, cold, formal, and filled with authority. "Unidentified vessel, this is the Galactic Council patrol ship Vigilance. You are in a restricted zone. State your business." Grant kept her expression neutral. "This is the Dawnfire, independent salvage vessel. We're here on a legal salvage operation." A long pause. Then the voice returned, sharper this time. "Salvage is prohibited in this sector. Prepare for inspection." Hale swore under his breath. Grant narrowed her eyes. "Under what authority?" "The Council has deemed this world unsalvageable. Unauthorized ships must submit to inspection or face consequences." Sarah's voice came through the comm in a whisper. "The kid is terrified. We need to end this fast." Grant exhaled slowly. There was no talking their way out of this. If the Council boarded them, they would search every room. They would find the child. And they would take her. Her fists clenched. She had seen what the Council did to refugees, to those they considered disposable. This girl would be no exception. She turned to Hale. "Weapons." Hale hesitated. "We have enough to disable them. But if we fire first, we're officially criminals in Council space." Grant's jaw tightened. "They left a child to die. I don't care about their loss." She made her decision. "Lock onto their engines," she ordered. hit them with an EMP burst. "We're leaving." Hale nodded, fingers flying over the controls. A moment later, the ship shuddered as a pulse of blue energy shot from the Dawnfire, slamming into the Vigilance. The enemy ship flickered on the radar. Then it went dark. "They're disabled," Hale confirmed. "No weapons, no comms. They won't be chasing us anytime soon." Grant didn't waste time. "Engage the drive. Get us out of here." The Dawnfire roared to life, its thrusters flaring as it turned away from the planet and vanished into deep space. In the med-bay, Carter knelt beside the alien child. Her silver eyes were wide, filled with confusion and fear. She didn't understand what had just happened, but she knew one thing. The humans had fought for her. Carter offered a small smile. "We're safe now, kid." For the first time, the child hesitated, then reached out, gripping his hand. A silent promise. She wasn't alone anymore. The Dawnfire hurtled through space, leaving behind the disabled Vigilance. For now, they were safe, but Commander Grant knew it wouldn't last. The Council didn't tolerate defiance. In the dimly lit med-bay, Carter sat beside the alien child, watching as Sarah carefully checked her vitals. The girl was no longer trembling, but her large silver eyes darted between them, wary and confused. "She understands more than she lets on," Sarah murmured. "She's scared, but she knows we protected her." Carter nodded. "Can she talk?" Sarah sighed. "Not in our language, but she's trying to communicate." The child looked up, her delicate fingers gripping Carter's sleeve. She made a small sound, a series of clicks and soft hums. Carter's heart clenched. Whatever she was saying, it carried weight. "She's thanking you," Sarah guessed. Carter gave a small smile. "You're safe, kid. We won't let them take you." But outside the med-bay, the situation wasn't so simple. On the bridge, Hale's face was pale as he studied the sensors. "Commander, we have a problem." Grant stepped beside him. "What is it?" Hale pointed to the screen. A red dot had appeared behind them, closing in fast. "They're tracking us. The Council must have sent reinforcements." Grant clenched her jaw. "How many ships?" Hale swallowed hard. "Not just one." He zoomed out the map. 5 red dots now flickered on the screen. "They're coming in full force." The Council wasn't just angry. They wanted to erase the Dawnfire. Grant exhaled sharply. "We can't outrun them forever." Hale glanced at her. "Then what do we do?" Grant's mind worked fast. Running was no longer an option. Hiding wouldn't work for long. Fighting 5 Council warships, a death sentence. Then she remembered something. "The asteroid belt," she said suddenly. Hale blinked. "You want to fly through Magnar's Rift. That place is suicide." Grant's eyes were cold. "It's suicide for them too." Hale hesitated, then nodded. "All right." Plotting a course. The ship banked sharply, engines roaring as it sped toward the asteroid belt, a vast stretch of jagged, tumbling rocks where even the most advanced ships struggled to navigate. Behind them, the Council ships adjusted course. They weren't giving up. The Dawnfire dove into the storm of debris, dodging massive asteroids that spun wildly through space. Every second was a gamble. One wrong move, and they'd be crushed. "Brace yourselves," Hale shouted. A massive rock tumbled toward them. Grant gritted her teeth. Hard right. The ship veered just in time, the asteroid grazing past them. The Council ships weren't so lucky. One of them clipped a rock, spinning out of control before slamming into another. A fiery explosion lit up the darkness. "Scratch one," Hale muttered. But the others pressed on. A warning light flashed. Missiles incoming. Grant gripped the controls. Deploy countermeasures. Flares shot out from the Dawnfire, confusing the tracking systems. 2 missiles veered off course, exploding harmlessly. The ship twisted through the maze of debris, slipping between rocks the size of cities. The Council ships struggled, their bulkier frames unable to maneuver as swiftly. "Two more down," Hale shouted. That left 2 enemies. But before Grant could celebrate, an alarm blared. They'd locked onto us. A missile streaked toward them, too fast to dodge. Grant's stomach dropped. "Hold on." The impact rocked the ship. Sparks flew. The lights flickered. "We've lost rear thrusters," Hale yelled. "We're losing power." Grant cursed. They had to land. Now, ahead, a massive asteroid loomed, its surface uneven but stable enough for a crash landing. "We're going in," she barked. The Dawnfire hurtled toward the rock, smoke trailing from its engines. Sarah's voice crackled over the comm. "What's happening?" "We're making a rough landing," Grant responded. "Hold onto the kid." With a deafening boom, the Dawnfire hit the asteroid, skidding across its surface before coming to a grinding halt. Silence. Then Hale exhaled shakily. "We're alive." Grant unbuckled her harness. But the hunt isn't over. The remaining 2 Council ships circled above, searching. Grant's eyes darkened. "They won't stop until we're dead." Carter's voice crackled over the radio. "Then we fight." The child watched them, her silver eyes glowing in the dim light. She didn't understand their words, but she knew one thing. The humans weren't running anymore. The Dawnfire sat in silence on the asteroid's rocky surface, its hull scorched, engines damaged, and power flickering. But inside, the crew was still breathing, still fighting. Commander Grant surveyed the dimly lit bridge, her mind racing. Above them, 2 remaining Council warships prowled through space, scanning for signs of life. They thought the Dawnfire was crippled, that they had already won. They were wrong. Hale broke the silence. "They're running sensor suites. It's only a matter of time before they find us." Grant nodded. "We need to hit them before they hit us." Hale frowned. "Commander, we got no thrusters. Half our weapons are offline, and shields are barely holding together." Carter's voice came through the comm. "So, we still have guns, don't we?" Grant smirked. "Exactly." She turned to Hale. "We're not outrunning them, so we make them come to us. We trick them into thinking we're already dead. Then we ambush them." Hale hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but it's a long shot." "It's the only shot," Grant said. She activated the emergency override on the ship's systems, shutting down most of the power. To the enemy scanners, the Dawnfire would now look like nothing more than wreckage. Now they waited. Above, the 2 Council warships closed in. On the Vindicator, Captain Saris scowled at the readings. "The human ship isn't moving." A second officer sneered. "Typical. They crashed and died. Weak species." Saris wasn't so sure. "Send a recon drone," she ordered. The small probe shot toward the asteroid, scanning for life. It swept over the Dawnfire, searching. On board, Grant watched the drone's signal pulse on her screen. She gripped her communicator. "Carter, take the shot." Deep in the weapons bay, Carter grinned. "With pleasure." A single railgun turret, one of the few still operational, whirred to life. The drone had no chance to escape. A thunderous crack echoed as the round tore through it, sending debris scattering into space. Saris shot to her feet. "They're alive." The second officer paled. "What do we do?" Saris bared her teeth. "We end them." The warships turned, weapons charging, preparing to obliterate the asteroid. But Grant was already ahead of them. "Hale, full power to forward cannons." He blinked. "What cannons? We barely have." "Just do it." The power systems flickered as energy was redirected. The Dawnfire was dying, but it still had teeth. As the first warship descended, its massive guns glowing with energy, Grant fired everything. Twin plasma beams screamed through space, slamming into the warship's underbelly. The shields flared, then shattered. The second blast punched through the hull. Explosions ripped through the ship's structure. The Vindicator shuddered. On board, Saris barely had time to process what had happened before a chain reaction sent fire erupting through the decks. Seconds later, the ship was nothing but a burning wreck drifting in space. Hale let out a stunned breath. One down. But the second warship was still there. And it was angry. It unleashed a barrage of missiles, streaking toward the Dawnfire like fiery death. Countermeasures, Grant barked. Hale hit the override. Flares exploded outward, but it wasn't enough. 2 missiles slipped through, slamming into the asteroid near the ship. The ground trembled, sending rocks flying. The Dawnfire shook violently. Carter's voice came through. That was too close. Grant grit her teeth. Then we finish this. Now, the enemy ship hovered above, preparing for a final strike. Then, from the back of the Dawnfire, a new voice crackled through the comms. Sarah. Commander, the girl wants to help. Grant's stomach twisted. She's just a child. Sarah's voice was urgent. You don't understand. I think she's... The ship lurched. Lights flickered. Then something impossible happened. The alien child stepped onto the bridge, her small hands trembling. But her eyes, they glowed. Energy pulsed around her, raw and untamed. The ship's failing systems hummed back to life. Power surge. Grant could only stare. What? Sarah whispered. She's not just any alien. She's something more. The enemy ship fired again. The girl raised her hands. And for the first time in history, humanity witnessed something beyond science, beyond logic. The missiles froze in midair. Then, with a single pulse of energy, they reversed direction. The enemy ship didn't even have time to react before its own weapons turned against it. A fireball erupted in space. Silence followed. The battle was over. But the war was just beginning. Silence filled the Dawnfire's bridge. The shattered remains of the last Council warship drifted in space, its fiery wreckage a reminder of the battle they had just survived. Commander Grant stood frozen, staring at the young alien girl in front of her. The child had just done the impossible, turning the enemy's weapons against them with nothing but a mere thought. Hale was the first to break the silence. Commander, what the hell was that? Sarah, still gripping the girl's shoulders, answered in a quiet voice. I don't know, but I think she's more than what we thought. The girl, exhausted, looked up at Grant. Her glowing eyes flickered, and for a brief moment, a strange energy surged through the ship. Systems flickered, stabilizing where they should have failed completely. The ship was holding together, because of her. Grant took a step forward, carefully kneeling in front of the girl. What are you? The girl didn't answer with words. Instead, she slowly raised her small hand and placed it over Grant's chest. A wave of warmth spread through her, an energy unlike anything she had ever felt. And in that moment, Grant understood. This child, this helpless, abandoned being, wasn't just an ordinary alien. She was a weapon, a force of nature, a living key to something far greater than humanity had ever known. Sarah swallowed hard. Commander, I think she's the reason the Council wanted her dead. Grant's mind raced. If the Council had feared this child so much, what else were they hiding? But there was no time for answers. The ship's radar beeped, an urgent warning. Hale's voice turned sharp. Commander, we have a problem. Grant snapped out of her thoughts. What is it? Hale's fingers flew across the console. Long-range sensors just picked up a fleet, Council warships. Hundreds of them. A chill settled over the bridge. Carter swore under his breath. They know what happened. Sarah tightened her grip on the child. They're coming for her. Grant's jaw clenched. The Council had underestimated humanity once. They had betrayed them, left them for dead. And now they were coming to erase the only thing they feared. She wasn't going to let that happen. Grant turned to her crew, fire burning in her eyes. We're not running. Hale blinked. Commander, we can't take on an entire fleet. Grant smirked. We don't have to. We just need to warn Earth. She pressed a button on her console, opening the secure channel. The signal was weak, barely holding, but it was enough. A voice crackled through the speakers. Earth Command, this is Commander Grant of the Dawnfire. We have a situation. A pause. Then a deep voice responded. Commander, we read you. What's your status? Grant took a breath. The Council is coming, and they're bringing everything they have. The voice on the other end went silent for a moment. Then, we understand. Reinforcements are en route. Grant exhaled. Good. Then she turned to her crew. Get us moving. If the Council wants a war. She glanced down at the girl, who watched her with quiet, knowing eyes. Then we're going to give them one. The Dawnfire's engines roared back to life. Humanity had always been underestimated, but now they had a reason to fight. And this time, they weren't going to stop until the Council paid for everything.